Greetings, it's Tales from the Jails. John G. Sutton. Yes, folks, that would be me. Don't forget to get my book. It's on Amazon. HMP Manchester Prison Officer. Anyway, today's Tales from the Jails. I'm going to talk about a real scumbag today. Let me show you his picture. It's unfortunate that these people are out there, isn't it? I mean, they're just doing serious damage. I mean, he's quite a handsome guy, don't you think? There you go. Yeah, don't you think? Looks a bit puzzled. Eyes all screwed up. Obviously wondering where the hell he is. Well, I'll tell you where he is today, folks. He's in West Lothian at a prison called HMP Addiewell. Now, HMP Addiewell was opened in 2008. It's got a capacity of 796 people, and it's managed and run by a private company called Sodexo. They're doing it specifically for profit. They're not doing it to serve humanity or the British public. No, they're doing it for profit. And the government has sold our prisoners to them so that they can make some money out of them. Isn't that kind? Isn't that understanding? Isn't that compassionate? Isn't that what governments do? Isn't that why we elect politicians to sell our people off to private companies to exploit them for money? Because that's what they're doing. There isn't any other explanation, is there? And you know that. So write to your MP and tell them that there should be no privatisation of the prison system because it is an abuse. I mean, who are these prisoners? It could be your brother, could be your sister, your mother, your aunt, your uncle, your father, your granddad. That's who it could be. It could be you. Yeah, sold off to a private company. I mean, what next? I know what next. We'll be selling them overseas, eh? We've got a dozen lively ones here. How do you fancy them, eh? Got any plantations? Yeah, here they come. Sodexo, a disgrace. It is a disgrace. Now listen, let me tell you a little bit about this. I call him a scumbag because, listen, let's be honest. Christopher Miller, aged 38. You've seen his face. He looks like a tow rag. Yeah, well, he is a tow rag. First of all, he's serving 18 years in HMP Addiewell for killing a merchant navy officer. Yeah, so you've got to be educated to do this. I mean, you've got to be able to read sea maps. You've got to be able to navigate. You've got to be able to know about the engineering of the ship. And this tow rag, who probably knows what the inside of a bar looks like, certainly knows what bars look like, because he's got some on his windows at the moment, hasn't he? Yes, scumbag. 18 years, slit the throat of an Asian merchant navy officer called Kunal Mohanty, aged 30. And when he'd slit this man's throat and left him to die, he went around boasting, I've just done a racially motivated murder. And listen, I don't understand this racially motivated nonsense. I really don't. I mean, I've worked in the prisons all over the country, and if you treat people with equal respect, then you expect to get it back, and you can't get it back if you don't. Anyway, his defence for kicking and stamping on the head of his next victim, because don't forget he got 18 years for slitting the throat of the Asian merchant navy officer. He's got 18 years, just 18 years. Should have got lifetimes 10 or something like that. Anyway, he then in the prison entered into an altercation with an inmate called Joseph Wedlock, and he put him on the ground and stamped and kicked his head a period of 10 times. It was captured on CCTV. The judge actually described this as a horrendous attack. Now listen, I have been something of a battling man. I mean, I've had to do, haven't I? I was in the military, I was a boxing champion, I was in the prisons, at the scrubs, at Strangeways. You get involved in some altercations, but listen this. When the man's down, you leave him down. You don't kick him, don't hurt him, don't try and smash his head, don't do anything like that. Got to be certain standard rules. Mind you, I'm a bit old-fashioned that way. I come from the 1950s, that's when I was brought up. Born in the 1940s, raised in the 1950s and 60s, and if you put a man down and no weapons, nah. But not this guy, and his defence. Oh, what a defence he had. Do you know what he said? Christopher Miller said that he was high on street Valium whilst serving 18 years in HMP Addiewell. So whichever bright spark took that stuff in for this maniac, they're equally responsible. I don't know what street Valium is. I know what Valium is, but I don't know what street Valium is. I mean, is it something they crushed up and made into something that they ingest? I don't know. But this is what he did. So that's today's little rant. If you're ever in West Lothian and you see HMP Addiewell and you're just going past, keep going past. There's a scumbag in there that stamps on people's heads. Now, how cowardly is that? I've shown you his picture. Let me show it you again, just in case you feel like having a nightmare tonight. There he is. Looks puzzled, looks deranged. Obviously, he's going to die in jail. Let's hope so. Not that I'm an uncompassionate individual. I'd like to rehabilitate him if possible. Yeah, they have a system in America that helps to rehabilitate people. They plug it in. Anyway, that's enough from me today, from the Tales from the Jails. I'm going to do my no singing today. People complaining about my singing. Somebody said, "We love your Tales from the Jails, but your singing is absolutely shite." That's very disturbing, you know. I was been crying when I heard that. All through Second World War. And here I am, being insulted. Never mind. I'm going to read you a poem by one of my favourite poets, John Betjeman. We had a mutual friend, you know, me and John Betjeman, Sir John Betjeman, a man called Colin Wilson. Google Colin Wilson. He had an international best-selling book called The Outsider. Used to live in Cornwall at a place called Goran Avon. Went down there on a number of occasions to see Colin. Very nice, erudite gentleman. He mentions me in one of his books, actually. I'm in a book called The Angry Years. I did some research with Colin Wilson on that, yeah. Anyway, this is enough of the name dropping, eh? Get off, eh? Get off, Sutton. Yeah, here we are. This is John Betjeman's Harrow on the Hill. Now, Harrow on the Hill is a poem about a boy, probably about 9-10 years old, who comes back from his holidays in Cornwall, and the holidays are over, and it's time for school, and he's returning back to school where he lives in the area around in London called Harrow on the Hill. And there are certain place names in this poem, which is a typical sign of John Betjeman. He uses place names, he uses products. And this is how John Betjeman saw Harrow on the Hill when he'd been returning from his holidays in Cornwall. And he's actually used to stay at a place called Trebetherick. I highly recommend that you go and visit. He's buried, his grave is at Trebetherick. And I've been to his grave. I was at his grave probably about 6-7 years ago, and I read a number of his poems. And he's still there. Harrow on the Hill by John Betjeman. When melancholy autumn comes to Wembley, and electric trains are lighted after tea, the poplars near the stadium are trembly, with their tap and tap and whispering to me, like the sound of little breakers spreading out along the surf line when the estuary's filling with the sea. Then Harrow on the Hill's a rocky island, and Harrow churchyard full of sailors' graves, and the constant click and kissing of the trolleybuses hissing is the level of the wheeled stone turned to waves, and the rumble of the railways the thunder of the rollers as they gather up for plunging into caves. There's a storm cloud to the westward over Kenton. There's a line of harbour lights at Perryvale. Is it rounding rough Pentyre in a flood of sunset fire, the little fleet of trawlers under sail? Can those boats be only rooftops as they stream along the skyline in a race for port and Padstow with the gale? Harrow on the Hill. I sincerely hope you enjoyed that.